You're listening to The Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Baseball, Tigers beat the Orioles, Twins lost to the Red Sox, Royals shut out by the Giants, KC and Detroit hold the second and third wild cards in the AL with Minnesota 1 game back.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM hosts Tider Insider TV, Crimson Tide Kickoff, play-by-play for Alabama sports, and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, let's do this. The Gary Harris Show for Monday, September 23, 2024. I'm your host, Gary Harris. Ready to rock and roll the next couple of hours. It is Georgia week for the Crimson Tide. Number 4, Alabama, hosting number 2, Georgia, this Saturday evening inside Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium. It should be a great football game, and we are ready to go with all of your coverage beginning this morning. As I said, I'm your host, Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline at 205-342-9904. And we hope to get some good calls today because after last week, which was a good week, a fun week, but I call it the calm before the storm, now literally we could be dealing with a storm. There's a chance that some inclement weather is going to hit here at the latter part of the week with a possible hurricane in the Gulf. We'll continue to monitor that. In fact, I'll try to get I didn't even think about this. I'll try to get WVUA 23 Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott on this morning to give us an update on that and how it could impact our weather as well. And obviously, you know, I want to keep this in perspective. As big as this football game is, it is secondary if we were to have a hurricane in the Gulf to what that could mean for people that live there and the devastation that has, you know, potential that you have from a hurricane. So we'll keep you updated on that as well. As far as the football is concerned, we'll have a great conversation on all morning long on Alabama and Georgia. Before we go any further, though, I need to let you know this hour of the Gary Harris Show being brought to you, as always, by Alabama Credit Union, member-owned and not for profit. It's just a better way of banking. I really encourage you to find out more. Become a member like I am. You'll just be amazed at the benefits that you have from being a member of Alabama Credit Union. Find out more at alabamacu.com. That's alabamacu.com, or go by and see them at one of their many great locations around the state of Alabama. Alabama Credit Union, loans for real life. Some rules and restrictions do apply. See if you're eligible for membership and join today and feel good about your money. And put a little extra change in your pocket. All right, here's the lineup for today at 9:30. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV is going to start breaking down Alabama football for us. And at 10:30, Casey Smith on golf. He lives in Atlanta. He's also a big football fan. We'll get his feel for what it's like over there in Georgia for this game as well. He was also at the Falcons-Chiefs game last night, so we'll get an update on that, as that was a really good football game on Sunday Night Football last night. Falcons had a couple of chances late to win it and got stopped on 4th down in the red zone on 2 separate occasions, and they wind up falling in that game to the Chiefs. Bama in the NFL, we're going to cover that for you this morning in depth, as there is always excitement on Sundays and Mondays when it comes to Alabama in the NFL. That was the case again yesterday. In fact, let me go ahead and talk a little bit of NFL before we start taking phone calls this morning. Derrick Henry, this is why the Ravens got him, to compliment Lamar Jackson, and he certainly did that in that game against the Cowboys yesterday. I mean, he played like the Derrick Henry that is going to be a Hall of Famer one day, and like the Derrick Henry in his prime, because I still think he's in his prime. He's 30 years old, but the way that he takes care of himself, he's still got a lot of football ahead of him. 25 carries for 151 yards and 2 touchdowns in the game. He also caught a screen pass in the game for 23 yards as the Cowboys rallied late in this one. It was a 28-6 game midway through the fourth quarter, and it wound up 28-25. It got scary. Justin Tucker, who for many years was the best kicker in the NFL, missed a field goal. He's now missed 2 this year. In a year where we're seeing guys kick them all over the place, including a 65-yarder by the Cowboys kicker. But he missed a field goal. Cowboys got a touchdown. Cowboys got an onside kick. And next thing you know, they get a field goal. It's 28-25. And the Cowboys got their timeouts. But the Ravens were able to close it out with a couple of big third down conversions. Or the Ravens were able to close it out. And you get to win 28-25. But what a game for Derrick Henry. Other big Bama in the NFL performances, Amari Cooper for the Browns caught 2 touchdown passes, even though the Browns lost that game to the Giants. He came up big. Jalen Hurts over 300 yards passing as the Eagles beat the Saints. Eagles defense is the story here. The Saints came in averaging 40-plus points a game. They held them to 12. And the Saints' only touchdown came after a blocked punt. DeVonta Smith was having a really good game when he got, that's what's so strange about football. You see all these hits that go, they throw a flag on when you think, is that really targeting? Is that really unnecessary roughness? And here's DeVonta Smith, and we know how slender he is. He catches a ball over the middle. He is stopped, and a big defensive lineman comes in and just destroys him from the backside after the play really is already over. It looked like it was helmet to helmet, no penalty. He suffers a concussion. He has to leave the game, but he was having a really nice game prior to that. Other good Bama in the NFL performances, Will Reichard, 4 for 4 on extra points for the Vikings, 2 of 2 on field goals, including a 58-yarder. He has not missed a kick this season, the rookie kicker for the Vikings out of Alabama, as they rolled over D'Amico Ryans and the Texans 34-7 to go to 3-0 on the year, and he has not missed a kick, and he looks like a guy that, is going to have a chance to be in the Pro Bowl as a kicker, even though there are a lot of really, really good kickers this season. So Najee Harris had another good game, over 70 yards rushing, as the Steelers moved to 3-0, beating the Chargers 20-10. But one note that, it is what it is. Bryce, I still don't put it on Bryce all the way, but Andy Dalton did step in for the Panthers and had a huge game, going 26 of 37 for 319 yards and 3 touchdowns as the Panthers beat the Raiders. And it obviously looks like they're going to be staying with him as the starting quarterback. Jahmyr Gibbs had a touchdown for the Lions on the old hook and ladder play. It was really, really neat as the Lions beat the Cardinals 20-13. And, every time you watch a game now, there's a chance you're going to see, good Bama in the NFL performance, including tonight when you've got Brian Robinson Jr. Running for the Commanders against the Bengals. He's off to a good start this season. Doubleheader for Monday Night Football tonight, by the way, as the Jaguars and Bills play, and so do the Commanders and the Bengals. College football on Saturday in the SEC. Wow, Auburn loses at home to Arkansas, and the quarterback situation at Auburn right now is a mess. It kind of is. There's no other way around it. They, being Auburn right now, is just at quarterback, it's just all up in the air right now. They went to the freshman, Hank Brown, and he started against New Mexico and had a good game. Comes back against Arkansas, throws 3 interceptions in the first half. Gets replaced by the former starter, Peyton Thorne. He did some good things, but Auburn loses. They go to 2-2 on the season. They played 4 home games. They play another home game against Oklahoma coming up on Saturday, and we don't know what their quarterback situation is. Hugh Freeze meets the media later today. We'll see what he says. Also, you've got Oklahoma and Tennessee. Tennessee goes to Norman and wins that game. Missouri in overtime, very fortunate to beat Vanderbilt. And that's, just one of those games where Missouri found a way, but you really have to question, I think, as to whether or not they are this SEC championship contender that a lot of people tried to make them out to be. Now, they do remain unbeaten. That's true, but barely. And I think probably more questions than answers right now for Vanderbilt as far as what's happening with them. Other SEC games, Florida did get a win at Mississippi State. We know that both those teams were struggling coming in. South Carolina won at home over Akron. Former Hoover and Auburn quarterback Robbie Ashford had a great game for that South Carolina team. Texas and Arch Manning rolled over ULM. LSU beat UCLA. Ole Miss over Georgia Southern. A&M held off Bowling Green. Won by 6. Kentucky beat Ohio. And as we said, it was Florida over Mississippi State, Arkansas over Auburn, Tennessee over Oklahoma, and Missouri in overtime over Vanderbilt. All right, it's 9:13 here on the Gary Harris Show. We're off and running. The number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline is 205-342-9904, 205-342-9904. Give us a call if you want to get through. We're going to lead off with Corey from Trustful on the other side. Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com at 9:30. At 10:30, Casey Smith on golf. And also Ryan Williams, Alabama's electric freshman wide receiver, met with the media on Friday. And we'll have his comments for you this morning on the Gary Harris Show as well. So sit back, get ready for the kickoff of Alabama-Georgia week, and we'll be right back after this.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Monday morning. Polls will be open this time tomorrow morning for the 11 mil property tax increase vote in the city of Tuscaloosa, with funds going to the Tuscaloosa City Schools. Officials point out that there has not been an ad valorem tax increase in the city in 40 years, but the cost of providing a quality education continues to spiral upward. Opposition comes from realtors, apartment complex owners, and developers. Click TuscaloosaThread.com for more local news. It's free. Don Hartley, Town Square Media, Tuscaloosa.
As much as Innisfree has evolved, it will always be that place to escape and have a good time. Whether it's for a game day weekend, to reminisce on college days, or to create new memories, if you're looking for a good time, there's only one thing to do. Head to the Free at 1925 University Boulevard. And don't forget about the Lucky Lunch Meat and 3 special. Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. until 2 p.m. Get a meat and 3 vegetables for just $8.49. Or for a lighter appetite, try the Lucky Lunch soup, salad, or sandwich combo. I'll see you at the Free.
Tuscaloosa's Old Colony Golf Course is an 18-hole championship layout designed by 1976 U.S. Open champion Jerry Pate. Director of Golf John Gray and fitting specialist Bob Montgomery are PGA certified. Mike Shivitz is the head professional and director of the Tuscaloosa Junior Golf Program. Call today to secure a tee time.
Police Department and the men and women who serve every day. Learn more and apply today at jointuscaloosapd.com. That's jointuscaloosapd.com.
Life doesn't wait for when your finances are in perfect order. It just happens. But no matter what surprises come your way, Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans, mortgages, and auto loans. They offer an easy application process and fast decisions so you can stay focused on feeling good about whatever life brings your way. Alabama Credit Union will be here to help make it affordable with great personal loans,
shirts, and also offer custom screen printing. Let Eyecatchers print shirts for your next event. 345-7762. Eyecatchers Screen Printing and Gifts, where getting seen becomes an art.
Since 2011, Billy's Sports Grill, located on Main Avenue in historic downtown Northport, has been serving their legendary signature chicken sandwich, award-winning wings, and handcrafted cocktails. Billy's is also the spot to watch all your favorite sporting events with big screen, high-definition televisions, both dining rooms, at the bar, and outside on the beautiful patio. Come by and say hello to Kim and Lisa, the Billy's Management Dream Team. Billy's, good food, good friends, and good time.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a hot afternoon, the high 93. For tonight, the sky fair with the low at 72. For tomorrow, partially sunny. We'll mention a small chance of a shower by afternoon, the high tomorrow 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3320 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to the Gary Harris Show. For Alabama sports, Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 9:18. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. We're going to jump out on the Sunoco Park at North River Hotline, and that's where we find our pal Corey from over in Trussville to lead us off this morning. Good morning, Corey.
Good morning, Gary. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Well, it's here, man. It's Alabama-Georgia week, and this is the big one. I mean, this is the game that everybody's been waiting for all season, and I can't wait. I mean, I think that this is going to be the tone setter for the team. I mean, yes, you would like to win this game. I know everybody's going to make it out to be this big game, and it doesn't make or break your season, but I think this could be a tone setter for a launching point for a really good season, because you knock off the team that has won 2 out of the last 3 national championships, and if you can go, if Alabama can knock off Georgia, it'll be a huge win, and I feel real good about doing it. I mean, Alabama's at home. Not many people are giving Alabama a chance to do it. And one of the most dangerous things is giving Alabama any reason not to do it, and they find a way to do it. And Alabama's an underdog in this game, which I found out that Alabama's an underdog at home for the first time since 2007 when LSU came in, and that was 113 games ago, which is crazy. 113 home games ago, which is crazy.
Yeah, it was 2007. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And LSU won that game 41-34, but Alabama gave them all they wanted, and that was in Nick Saban's first year. So you're right. This is about as rare as it gets for Alabama to be a home dog. But they are right now, and I'm with you. It's not going to, the season's going to go on whether you win or lose this game, and you're still going to have a chance to make the college football playoff, even if you lose. But let's be honest. If you lose, the pressure's on the rest of the way. And if you win, you have a win over a team that's number 2, that was number 1 to start the season, that most people picked to win the SEC, and most people picked to win the national championship. So if Alabama wins that game, listen, man, I mean, they're in a great position to go on and have another magical season. So it is a big game. And I think you're right, Corey. It's not a season maker or breaker, but it's a huge game. And there's no way they all count one. I get that. I've always believed that too. If you don't think of so-and-so's a big game, like Gene Stallings said, just try losing it. And, it's 12-game season, but some games in terms of what they mean in regards to perception and the hype, they are. That's why it is a big game. It's bigger than a normal game. And the rivalry between the two teams, Kirby Smart's lack of success against Alabama, the only team that really has had success against Kirby Smart on a regular basis is Alabama. And it's got everything, hype. Game day is going to be here. Just about every person that can get a credential media-wise is going to be here. Some that don't have credentials will still be here. You'll have former President Trump here. So, yeah, Corey, it's a huge, huge football game.
Something that has concerned me is that the last few games we've had big games here. You go back to 2011 LSU, 2019 LSU game here at home, and last year with Texas at home. We've lost all 3 of those big home games, and this is another big home game. So we've lost big home games here, and that's kind of been a trend. We've lost big home
games. Yeah, but they've won some big home games too. You know, listen, one reason they lost in 2011 to LSU, in 2019 to LSU, and last year at Texas is because those were great teams, and they're hard to beat anywhere that you play them. And the same thing this year. I agree with you. But Alabama's also won a lot of big home games, and they rarely lose here. It takes a special team or a special player like a Johnny Manziel or a Cam Newton or a great team to beat Alabama in Tuscaloosa. It just doesn't happen very often. So, yeah, you're going to lose some of those games when you play great teams. I mean, again, you think back to Nick Saban once he got on this run, and you just about named them all. They lost in 2010 to Cam Newton and Auburn. That was a national championship team. They lost at home in 2011 to LSU. They got payback in the national championship game against LSU. They lost in 2012 to Johnny Manziel, who was a phenomenal college football player. I don't care what, his NFL career was like. As you said, they lost in 2015 to Ole Miss at home in an amazing performance by Ole Miss in that game. And I think Alabama turned it over 5 times. They lost in 2019 at home to a great LSU team, probably the best LSU team that they've ever had. And lost last year, like you said, to a great Texas team that made the college football playoffs. So, yeah, it's a challenge, and they've lost some of those games. And they'll have to play well to have a chance to win this one on Saturday night because Georgia's that good too.
I think what's going to be interesting is, how does Alabama attack Georgia's defense? Because what they're going to want to try to do is take away Ryan Williams because everybody knows his name now. He's come in and done a really good job of getting open and scoring and stuff. But Georgia knows his name now, and they're gonna. What Alabama can't get confident just throwing deep and throwing to Ryan Williams, and because they're going to want to take him out of the game. Because this is where Milroe is going to need to show off his intermediate passing game. Because if it's not there downfield, is Kobe Prentice, Kendrick Law open on the intermediate stuff? Take the check downs because Georgia has a very stingy secondary. You're not going to be able to just launch it downfield to complete deep passes like you did against Wisconsin, South Florida, and Western Kentucky. You're going to have to take what the defense gives you because Georgia is just that kind of team that's going to make you earn it. And you can't get greedy and have turnovers where it's going to get out of hand if you get greedy going downfield.
Well, I think Alabama will have a really good plan on offense. I do. And I think that they have a lot of weapons. They've got 2 really good running backs, really 4, although I think Richard Young's out and Daniel Hill, the freshman. But the 2 main guys in Haynes and Miller, good tight ends, good offensive line, playmakers at wide receiver, in addition to Ryan Williams. He's not the only one. And I think that Jalen Milroe is an X factor. I think his ability to make plays is going to give Georgia trouble. It gave Georgia trouble last year in the SEC championship game. And then on defense, you've got to be able to line up in up front on defense, play against that Georgia offensive line because it's really good. Even with Ratledge out, that's still a big physical offensive line. They have the ability to run the football. You need to put pressure, obviously, on Beck. And you're going to have to play well. There's no way around it. Alabama's going to have to play a really good game. But right now, if Alabama plays well at home, I like the Tide. I do like their history against Georgia and what they've been able to do against Kirby Smart. So we'll see. But I like this Alabama team going into this game. Hey, I got to get to another phone call, Corey. But great to hear from you, my friend.
Good to talk to you here. Roll Tide.
All right, thank you. All right, let's get our pal Digger down in Louisiana. And there's no telling what Digger's got on his mind this morning. What's up, Digger? Digger, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right, well, hit it, my friend. You got it. It's all you.
Buddy, you better. I'm just calling to let you know you better hope you win this game. You know what's at stake here? There are 8, count them, 8 5-star defensive linemen in Georgia. And everybody wants them, including Texas and LSU, because of Bo Davis. Oh, my God.
No doubt.
And they're all eyeballing this. And I guess you've got a big crew coming in to recruit.
You do?
Game, right?
Oh, they do. Yep.
Lordy, and I don't care what Rodney Orr says. He's a sycophant. He's not going to tell you the bad news. If you lose this game, they're going to be looking the other way. Okay, I'm telling you, you better win.
What if Alabama wins this game?
Well, if you win, you're in good standing, right?
Yeah, you know, though, Digger, you know,
to do this. That's what I
recruits look at things differently, though. I don't know that the outcome of a game always plays on their mind the way that you think it does. Win or lose. I'm just saying, if Alabama wins the game, there's no guarantee they're going to get any of those guys. If they lose the game, there's no guarantee that they won't, because that's just, recruiting is just such a different animal, even now with NIL, even a bigger deal. But yeah, it would help to win. You want to win when you're at home at a big game like that, obviously. So, and for recruiting and for other purposes. But it's a big one. Let me ask you about your Texas Longhorns. Is there a quarterback controversy? I read last week some fans want to stay with Arch. No way they stay with Arch, right? When Ewers is healthy, he's back. He's the guy.
Come on. We need them both to finish this season.
I didn't say you didn't, but Ewers starts as soon as he's healthy, right?
Season and look, they're not. It is Quinn's team, and Arch.
There you go.
Okay. Now, I mean, I don't know if you watch the game. He's making freshman mistakes here, so he's got a little bit to learn too. And that was against Lim. Remember that. Okay, so
I will. I'm with you. I think
if I was Coach Sark, I would start Arch against State. Lordy, I didn't think they were going to be this bad. So this is
they're horrible.
Time.
They're horrible. They're so bad. I'm stunned at how bad Mississippi State is. There's Coleman Hustler's their defensive coordinator who
especially in the SEC. I promise you.
What's that?
But I'm just telling you. Oh, by the way, real quick, you've heard of Grayson in Georgia about that big powerhouse high school team?
Absolutely.
Three recruits are eyeballing Texas. And I think two of them are going to this Georgia-Alabama game. So if I was Pat, Pat's always about her Ryan Williams and all that. If I was Pat, I'd be looking at these recruits in Georgia. So just letting you know.
Appreciate it, Digger.
Remember M for money and Mesrano.
If it has a logo on it, call me. 205-800-8000.
Tide 100.9. For more coverage of Alabama football, visit us at Tide100.9.com or download the free Tide 100.9 app.
The Crimson Tide will not be denied.
All right, 9:33. We're really about to crank up the Alabama-Georgia coverage now with Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV. Rodney, it's here. Last week I called it the calm before the storm. Now, literally, we may be having some storms at the end of the week, but we're going to keep our focus on Alabama versus Georgia this coming Saturday night. I know that the hype is going to be incredible. Corey called in already, Rodney, talking about some of the big games that Alabama's lost at home. 2010 to Cam Newton and Auburn, 2011 to LSU, 2012 to Johnny Manziel, 2015 to Ole Miss, 2019 to LSU, last year to Texas. But they've won a lot of big games too. And when you play as many big games as Alabama has, you're not going to win them all, Rod. And certainly Alabama fans hope, though, that is the case. That the case this Saturday night is that Alabama gets a W over Georgia. Just your kickoff thoughts for the week.
Yeah, it's going to be real interesting because now we have a matchup. All of those ones you talked about was with Nick Saban, right? So now
that's right.
Kalen DeBoer in his first SEC game, certainly, obviously, his first SEC home game as well, and it's what a matchup. I mean, it's just incredible that it would be against Georgia. The team that has won two of the last three national championships. It's coached by a former Saban disciple, who a lot of people consider the closest to Saban that there is out there. And you wonder, Gary, and I don't really think Kirby thinks this way, but you almost wonder, though, is there some sort of pressure more that would be on Georgia than Alabama in this game? Kirby's 1-5 against Alabama since he's taken over at Georgia. Now you've got a new guy in place. It's no longer Nick Saban. So is there a sense of pressure on Kirby coming to Tuscaloosa, in this game? Obviously, when I say pressure, Kirby is there. There's not a pressure in terms of, his future. It's certainly about, just kind of the perception of what it's been in terms of his, his record against Alabama. So I say all that to say it's going to be a little bit interesting. But again, I think probably when you talk about that, my guess is Kirby is so much like Saban that he's not really considering that. His mind is on that process of what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rodney. Of course, for these two teams, one's going to win, one's going to lose, and there's still going to be a lot of football left. There's no doubt about that. But to have your conference opener with these highest stakes, it is a big game. And I said this earlier, they all count one. You have to remember that if you're a coach. But in terms of what's at stake going forward for these two teams, the winner of this game is in a lot better position than the loser. That's the reality of it, Rodney. It's a big game for both these teams.
Yeah, it is because, just like that Kentucky game, if Georgia lost that game, wow, that would put them really behind the eight ball with the schedule they've got. They have to play Alabama, they have to play Texas, they have to play Tennessee. They've got some tough games coming up. They've got Ole Miss later, I think. So there's a lot of things that 2 losses, you're probably in the playoffs. 3, I doubt it. So, it's really, the win over Kentucky was huge for them. And this game is going to be really huge for both of these teams from the perspective of, starting to look forward to the playoffs. Because there's so many tough games coming up for both of these teams.
Break it down for us a little bit, if you will. Let's start with Alabama's offense versus Georgia's defense. Key matchups there, and what does Alabama need to do to have success?
Yeah, I watched Georgia. I need to really look at them a little more closely. But, obviously, to me, Gary, when I look at this, if you want to talk about Georgia's defense, they're just so fast. Now, they do have a lot of injuries. They've had some guys banged up. They've had some defensive linemen banged up. I'm not 100% sure of all the statuses of these guys right yet. Hopefully we'll find that out, at some point this week. But they've been beat up. That was a really physical game they had against Kentucky. Fortunate for both teams, I think, that you did have the week off. But it certainly allowed Georgia to rest up some of their guys. And, we'll see if they're at full strength or not defensively. But they're just so fast. They're athletic. It's going to be a real challenge for this offensive line blocking that defensive front of Georgia. So I'm interested to see that. I feel really good about what we saw from the Alabama offensive line at this last game against Wisconsin. I think they've had, obviously this time off to continue to work, and so that's going to be a real challenge. And we know that they're extremely fast on the back end. And how are they going to do? What my question? I think my thought is, how is Kirby going to change up some things in terms of defending Milroe? From the SEC championship game when he chose to use a couple of spies on him. Is he going to bring a lot more pressure in this game? Because I think that is kind of what the thought is now when you're defending Milroe, is try to bring as much pressure as you can on him. So I think that's one thing that's going to be interesting to watch, is just exactly, what Kirby wants to do defensively to try to come after Milroe.
And on the other side, Alabama's defense, up front against a really physical offensive line, even with Tate Ratledge out. Georgia's going to try to establish their running game. They don't seem to have the weapons on offense that they've had in the past. How do you see that matchup?
No, you're right. I watched them again against Kentucky, and I wondered, that it seemed like they're missing some of those outside weapons that they had. Obviously Bowers has gone to the tight end. I think Delp's really good, and some of the other tight ends they have. Lucky is really good. But, they do seem to be missing some playmakers outside, or at least they did in that game. As I watched them, I thought the same thing could be said when I watched them against Clemson. But so offensively, I'm not 100% sure if this is the same Georgia team that we've seen. Beck at times held the ball a little bit, was under pressure against Kentucky. I thought Kentucky's defensive front did a nice job. With all that said, I'm really, I like Kane Womack. I like, I'm looking forward to seeing how his style continues to kind of develop with this team, with this defense. Great third down numbers. The scoring defense has been really, really good. I get all those things. Gary, I got kind of scolded a little bit yesterday on Tider Insider because I expressed a little bit of concern about the defense. Basically, when you look at the run defense, they've given up 350-plus yards over the last two games to USF, South Florida, and then Wisconsin. I thought they were out of position a lot of times up front when you watch them. And I've talked to some people that actually coach defensive line, defensive fronts, and they kind of felt the same way, that at times Alabama was not playing very sound fundamentally, did not play well technique-wise at times. In the Wisconsin game, got out of position, allowed Wisconsin to have some gashing runs. But the scoring defense, again, kind of was really good. So that is good, but at the same time, the run defense is something that Kirby's got to be thinking he can line up and run the football, and that's what he would really love to do. On the back end, I think I've counted, you probably the same thing. There was probably 3-4 occasions against South Florida where you had receivers running free for touchdowns. The balls just didn't connect. Not good throws. Maybe some of that was due to Alabama's defensive pressure. So that'll be a real key on what kind of pressure they can get on Beck in this game. But, you can't allow receivers to run free against some of these quarterbacks. So that's a real concern to me as well. Just, again, you have to look at things where, what are things that Alabama has to do to give itself the best chance of winning. And I think, run defense and in the secondary, covering these receivers, not allowing them to run free is something that, you really have to emphasize.
I mentioned at the top, and of course all of them under Nick Saban, the big games that Alabama's played in at home over the years, some of the most epic games in college football. This is going to be another one. It is a different coaching staff for Alabama, but the atmosphere, all that's going to be going on, does that make a difference? Is in these big games, because Alabama's beat most everybody wherever they played them under Nick Saban, but it doesn't really matter. When you have two teams of this caliber, does home field make a difference in your mind, Rodney, or between the lines, is that overplayed a little bit in the media?
I mean, yeah, I think it certainly can make a huge difference when you talk about the crowd noise, how it affects, the opposing teams. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's can be a huge advantage to the home team. Like you said, Alabama's lost some monumental games at home as well, but those have been, pretty. Those were, I thought the crowd, even in those games, as I'm thinking back, really certainly was, advantageous for Alabama. So, but yeah, and I'm thinking in this game, it's going to be really, the excitement level is going to be extremely high. And it's going to be something that I think, Georgia's going to have a difficult time dealing with the noise at Bryant-Denny on Saturday night.
The pressure on Kirby Smart in Georgia, with the fact that he has only beaten Alabama one time. Alabama's really the only team, or not really, it is the only team that's given Georgia consistent trouble since he's been there. Do you think he feels that at all? I mean, I know the Georgia fans feel it. I know they feel the pressure. You can just tell by what they write on message boards, what they say on talk radio. They're a little paranoid of Alabama. Do you think that spills over to the coaching staff and the players, or like you said earlier, is he just so process oriented that he's able to keep that away from the players? It's just the pressure of trying to get a win over Alabama.
Yeah, man, I think he's so much like Saban that like you said, process oriented, that you just wonder if that doesn't really enter into his thinking. in terms of he doesn't allow it to. He's focused on what it's going to take to be successful. And, I think that's probably, pretty much his approach. But, yeah, you're right. I mean, I think when you look at it from a fan's perspective, they think their fans are a little bit paranoid of things that have happened. And I say happened, the way those games have turned out. I know there's, obviously their fans, every time Alabama beats them, it's always, the referees or some kind of, excuse. I mean, you hear that a lot from the Georgia fans, but, generally it's been because Alabama's had the better team.
Obviously, these two teams recruit at a very high level. There's going to be a lot of top prospects there, many of them from the state of Georgia. We know Georgia's always loaded in recruiting in terms of prospects. I've already had a call about, the impact that this game could have on recruits based on whether you win or lose. And as you and I have discussed before, recruits look at it differently. I'm not sure that winning or losing one game impacts their decisions, but you'd rather win it. And how big will this recruiting weekend be for Alabama?
Well, I mean, it looks like it'll be pretty big. Like you said, I think there was a time possibly where, the outcome of a game, maybe it was Alabama and Auburn back in the day many years ago, where it could have some kind of impact to sway a kid here or there. But for the most part, no, I don't think that means a lot. I think overall it's a big picture. I mean, let's be honest, these two teams could play a couple of more times this year if it fell in a certain way. Yeah, they're going to have a good visit list. I don't have the complete list yet, but I know that obviously Alabama's expecting some of their top commitments in. Keelan Russell, Caleb Cunningham, I think Dawson Merritt, the linebacker from the Kansas City area, is supposed to be down here. Nebraska's still really strongly after him. Chuck McDonald, the corner from out in Mater Dei, is supposed to be in. A.K. Deere from over in Mississippi. London Simmons, another Mississippi kid, the defensive lineman that's committed, is supposed to be in. Luke Metz, I think, is coming in. He's an excellent linebacker that obviously Georgia went after from the state of Georgia. And the big name, and I assume he's going to show up, is Justice Terry, the defensive lineman, 5-star out of the state of Georgia, who most people expect will ultimately end up in Georgia, but you never know. I mean, I know that Alabama's continued to recruit him extremely hard. Apparently there's a feeling that they have a real chance at him. And again, I think he ends up in Georgia if you ask me today. But another outstanding defensive lineman from Covington, Georgia, Tim Griffin, I think, is supposed to be in. So you've got some big-time players coming in. There's more to the list. There's a lot of 2026 kids. Braylon Womack is from Flowood, Mississippi, a high school teammate of London Simmons, the Bama commit for this year, is one of the best, maybe the best safety in the country for next year. He's supposed to be in. Anthony Jones, Tank, as they call him, from St. Paul's down in Mobile, an outside linebacker. It's a 5-star player for 2026. He's expected in. So it's going to be a good list, great atmosphere for Alabama to kind of make a strong impression on some of these kids.
Ronnie, we talked about Kirby Smart and, his issues against Alabama. For Kalen DeBoer, it's a clean slate. But this is the SEC opener, and we know how fans are when not just Alabama fans, but any fan base that has a top team and a top program. There's a lot of expectations. This is a big game for Kalen DeBoer. Obviously, if you lose it, you move on. You try to win the rest of them. You try to get to the playoff. But there'll be a lot of fans that will be gauging him fairly or unfairly on the outcome of this football game.
Yeah, well, I mean, at least for a week, right? I mean, you know how things go. Gary, I'm really looking at this game, and I'm saying, okay, I want to see how Alabama physically lines up and plays. This is going to be a really physical game. And I think last year, if you look at the SEC championship game, I think Herbie would probably tell you the same thing. Alabama won the physical battle. You remember the 3rd and shorts and the 4th and shorts.
Oh, I do. Where
Alabama just won the line of scrimmage, which is really big. And I look at the Alabama defensive line right now, and we've, you know this. I've sung their praises in spring, fall camp, August camp. Really, what I thought they could do, and I think now is the time we're going to see. What this defensive line, what this defensive front is made of, because they're going to be challenged physically. And it's going to be for 60 minutes. So I think it's kind of what Kane Womack said last week. We're going to find out if, Alabama fundamentally, technique-wise, and all of those things can keep up the intensity for 60 minutes. In this game, like you said, Tate Ratledge, their top offensive lineman, top offensive guard, is out for this game. So that's certainly somewhat of a blow to them. But they've recruited extremely well. They've got guys that can step in that are really good players. So I'm expecting a real physical battle. And I'm going to be interested to see, how Alabama fares in the trenches, because there have been some some suggestions that, Alabama's maybe with DeBoer, his style is maybe a little more finesse. I don't know that that's accurate or not. I mean, I saw them line up and do some great things against Texas last year. So I think it's from that standpoint, how does Alabama hold up physically against Georgia? I think that's going to be something to watch.
All right, folks, tomorrow night, Rodney will make the score prediction on Tider Insider TV at 6:30 on WVUA 23. And I know we have some transmitter issues. We got a hole in our transmitter. It got water in it. It's a serious issue. Tower climbers have been up there, so we're trying to get it fixed. But if you don't have us on your television provider, we will be available at WVUA23.com, the WVUA23 app, and then we will, of course, have the show available afterwards. Rodney will have it on his website. We'll have it at WVUA23.com. So big Tider Insider TV tomorrow night at 6:30. Looking forward to that. Thank you, Rodney.
Okay, buddy. Take care.
All right, 9:52 here on the Gary Harris Show, and we are going to take a timeout and come back and wrap up this first hour right after this on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Tuesday, 7:30, brought to you by Yellowwood. We'll have Kevin Skarbinski on. We'll talk all things SEC with Kevin. In the second hour, the controversial Tim Brando will join us. We'll talk to Tim about his top 15. Actually, he has Alabama at number 7, but we'll find out what Tim Brando thinks about the University of Alabama.
WTBC 1230 with Wyatt Fulton and Matt Coulter, presented by BMW of Tuscaloosa, Pearl River Resort and Casino, Tuscaloosa Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and walk-ons.
If you haven't already, you've got to try Tuscaloosa's unique breakfast, brunch, and lunch concept. Brick and Spoon, downtown Tuscaloosa, Timerson Square. It's fresh food with a Cajun flair featuring a full bar with build-your-own Bloody Marys and mimosas. Open daily, 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. Available for after-hours.
LibertyResort.com.
Yeah, that's right where I need to be.
Don't miss Gary Allen.
Los Tarascos has been serving Mexican favorites like burritos, fajitas, and quesadillas since 1999. Their new location is at 4100 Owen Parkway in Northport. And of course, you can find Los Tarascos in Tuscaloosa at 110 Skyland Boulevard. The bar areas feature big screen television so you can enjoy your favorite sporting events. Los Tarascos features daily happy hour specials. And for the best Mexican cuisine in West Alabama, remember, the name is Los Tarascos with locations in Tuscaloosa and Northport.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a hot afternoon, the high 93. For tonight, the sky fair with the low at 72. For tomorrow, partially sunny. We'll mention a small chance of a shower by afternoon, the high tomorrow 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3320 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Covering University of Alabama sports, as well as the national and local scene as well. The Gary Harris Show, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
$9:55, wrapping up this first hour of the Gary Harris Show. Hey, the YMCA is still running that no joining fee special through the end of September. That's right. You can join, and all you have to do is just start paying your monthly dues. No joining fee through the end of the month, plus 10% off all personal training packages. This is a fabulous deal at the YMCA. Take advantage of it through the end of September. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the first hour. It's been brought to you by Alabama Credit Union. Our thanks to Rodney Orr from TiderInsider.com for jumping on with us. At 10:30 in hour number 2, Casey Smith on golf. Plus we'll get the vibe from Casey, who lives in Atlanta, on the Alabama-Georgia game from over there in the ATL. Plus, I'm going to try to get Richard Scott on, Chief Meteorologist at WVUA 23, to jump on with us about the potential hurricane situation, what that means for the Gulf Coast, and what it could mean for this football game on Saturday in Tuscaloosa. So another hour is on the way. I know we got Tom on hold on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline to kick off the second hour. Tom, you hold tight. We'll get to you to start off our second hour of the Gary Harris Show on Tide 100.9 FM and 1230 AM WTBC, your home for Alabama sports. Hour number 2 is on the way.
100% satisfaction and appointments set around your schedule. Give us a call for all your steam cleaning needs. 205-553-9460. Houston Hydro Steam. Quality work you can stand on.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app. From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Nick Cope.
On Sunday Night Football, the Chiefs held off the Falcons 22-17. KC receiver Rashee Rice had 12 catches for 110 yards and a score. Kansas City now 3-0, while Atlanta falls to 1-2. Other 3-0 teams include the Seahawks. They suffocated the Dolphins 24-3. Miami quarterback Skylar Thompson left with a rib injury and was replaced by Tim Boyle. The Steelers are now 3-0 after a second half shutout of the Chargers, 20-10 the final. Justin Fields, 245 yards with a touchdown and a pick. Justin Herbert left in the third quarter after aggravating his injured right ankle. He was seen later in a walking boot. Vikings stayed unbeaten, handling the Texans 34-7. Sam Darnold threw 4 touchdowns, but he will have an MRI on his knee today. He missed just one play in the game.
The Gary Harris Show. UCM host Tider Insider TV. Crimson Tide Kickoff. Play-by-play for Alabama sports and sports director for WVUA 23. It's time for the Gary Harris Show on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Okay, everybody, here we go. Hour number 2 of the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM WTBC. I'm Gary Harris. Chase Brumfeld is manning the controls, taking your phone calls on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline, 205-342-9904. Coming up in this hour, we've got some audio from Ryan Williams, Alabama's phenomenal freshman wide receiver, plus Richard Scott, chief meteorologist at WVUA 23 in Tuscaloosa, is going to give us a hurricane update in the next segment. Casey Smith on golf at 10:30. Right now, we're going to kick off this second hour by jumping out on the phone line and welcoming in our pal Tom. Good morning, Tom.
Gary, good morning. Thanks for taking my call, and thank you for getting Richard on. That's outstanding. Good work there, and I look forward to hearing his take on the hurricane and what it may mean for us. You know, I don't wish anything bad on anybody, but we could use some of the rain in one of those things.
Yeah, we need rain. And what would really be nice is if this thing downgrades a little bit and doesn't threaten anybody on the coast, but brings us maybe a good soaking in, maybe Thursday and early Friday, and is out of here by Friday evening for high school football and pretty on Saturday. That would be ideal. I know one reason I want to get Richard on is they're about to release the path. So when he comes on in the next segment, he'll have a much better idea of what they're expecting from that. So that was something I think they're going to do it literally at 10 o'clock this morning, release the pass. So we'll have a better idea, and can't wait to visit with him about that.
Yeah, I look forward to that. I wanted to talk about a couple of things. One of them, Rodney brought up, and we've kind of been talking about it for a week. Actually, if you go back and think about it, he wrote about it in one of his analytical type articles on Tider Insider, and it's something that I've been concerned about for a good 3 years, and it's this defensive line play, and you know, I blamed everybody. I blamed Coach Roach and all this kind of stuff, and I'm not sure that's the problem. I'm not, and but the fact of the matter is, like Rodney said, is that we're not getting defensive line play to the quality that we have got in the past. and I want to hear your take on it. But also, I'm concerned about our ability to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands in a hurry. I'm facing this team in Georgia. I think they're going to bring the pressure, and I think it's going to be crucial that you get rid of the ball quickly, and I'm concerned about our ability to do that.
All right, first on the defensive line, Tom, I think Alabama is really talented up front on defense. I do. I think it's a little different scheme in regards to what they're trying to do on the defensive line. I think that the emphasis is a little bit more on athleticism and speed than on pure power. Having said that, I'm with you. I think the defensive line can play better, and I think that I'm concerned about them holding up in the running game, quite frankly, against this physical offensive line and physical football team of Georgia. So it's going to be a big test for Alabama up front. But this is a game where they have a chance, talking about the Alabama defensive linemen, to reestablish themselves as a dominant group, as a dominant defensive front. And if they're able to hold up against Georgia, I think they're going to be viewed completely different. But I do think that for whatever reasons, the defensive line play that was so dominant around here, probably, let's say from 2008 through about 2018 or so, it's been good, but it has not been to that level. I don't know what the reasons are for that, but I know that this is a big opportunity on Saturday night. What was the second part, Tom?
There.
Do what now?
Let me ask you a question right there.
Okay.
I just wonder, is there that many defensive linemen out there anymore that play the brand that we want to play? I don't know that the player is out there in terms of quality and all the things that you got to have for a defensive lineman to be successful. I don't know that. Well, I know they're out there, but that many of them.
Well, you gotta find the ones that you want and identify them and try to get your share of them. One thing that can always help, you don't want to lean on it too much, but there's always an opportunity now to go in the portal too and pull a defensive lineman or two. So I think Alabama, though, as they're constructed right now, I think they're good enough, talented enough, deep enough up front on defense to have a really potentially dominating defensive line. I think the talent is there. I think it's up to Freddie Roach, the defensive line coach, to bring it out of them. And I think Saturday night is a great opportunity for us to see what this defensive line is going to look like going forward for the rest of the season. If they hold up against Georgia, then I'm going to say, you know what? This team's got a chance to be really, really special. So that's a big part of it. The second, go ahead.
I agree with that, but the thing that Rodney points out that's always concerned me about this group in the last 4 years or so is being out of position. You cannot play the gap defense like it should be played. They're always in the wrong place, and that is really concerning against somebody that can run the ball.
Well, I mean, they're not always in the wrong place, or they wouldn't be as good as they are. I mean, run fits are a concern. I think they've been a concern even this year. We've seen a couple of times, a few times where they've gotten gashed, but they've had 2 weeks to work on it, or will have had 2 weeks to work on it by the time the game comes around. I expect both these teams, Alabama and Georgia, to have good plans, be prepared, play high-level football, and may the best team win. But I'm expecting a good performance from the defensive line, Tom, to kind of eventually get around to answering your question. I think the defensive line is going to show up and play well on Saturday night. I do. I'm expecting them to make some plays and to be a big part of the reason that Alabama wins this football game, because I do think Alabama's going to win the game. The second part of your question about getting the ball out quick, I think they'll have a good plan on offense. I think that there's going to be some of that. I think at the same time, I think that Alabama has the potential to throw the ball over the top downfield. And also, remember, if Georgia's in man-to-man, you got your back to Jalen Milroe. He can always take off and burn you with his legs. So he's hard to defend. I know a lot of people continue to say what you're saying, well, why didn't you get the ball out quicker and all that? And I'm sure they're going to try to work on that some. At the same time, you got to coach to who he is. and he's a down the field thrower. He is a athletic quarterback that can make plays with his legs and buy time. But I think you'll see some things, whether it's a screen game or slants or quick outs or things that they have in the game plan to get the ball out quicker if Georgia's applying pressure. I think they're going to have a really good plan.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. All right, let's get to Pat. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning, Gary. I want to see if your expert agrees with me. You there?
Yeah.
Okay. That this storm, I've been watching it for 4 or 5 days because I got to go down and tie my boat out tomorrow some more. That it's looking like there's dry air over in Louisiana, and then there's a cold front coming down from Arkansas. That's going to give it a wind. It's going to be a window of opportunity. This thing's going to come in, and it's going to be very, very fast moving. And there's potential for this thing being a Cat 3 when it hits the beach, I'm sorry to say. The models and stuff that I've been watching, it's beginning to make me quite nervous, especially for that Big Bend area of Florida. But the storm, once it comes in and hits the beach, it's going to be moving really quickly, going straight up the Georgia-Alabama line, and the wet side of that thing is going to be in Georgia. They're going to be buku rain, landfall, and tornadoes. That's the thing about a hurricane that's moving this quickly. It's a potential for spin-up tornadoes on the right side of that storm. Alabama's going to be more on the drier side. We should be by game time Saturday night. We ought to have a pretty good field. I think it's going to still be a fairly fast track is what I'm hoping for. And I hope he agrees with me. But the storm's going to go up toward North Alabama and may sit there a little while and rain a whole bunch. So everybody in Alabama, especially toward North Alabama, Fort Payne area, that could get buku rain out of this thing. But it's nothing in the South. And the thing about it is, down in Florida, this is nothing to mess with because, there's potential even on the Tampa side of this thing to be nasty over there. And I
hope I'm wrong. Like I said, Richard Scott's coming on in the next segment. They should have released the path by now, so have a much better idea. But what you're saying is,
and all the models are pretty consistent as far as it coming up and going somewhere between Panama City and Perry. But then turning, but going straight up Alabama, Georgia. And that therein lies where the issue is going to be, is Georgia getting buku rain between now and Saturday.
Yeah, well, if it stays east in Georgia, since the game's here in West Alabama, maybe we'll be okay. Like the caller said earlier, we need some rain. We could use some rain. But hopefully we'll get the rain in here and give us some moisture and then get it on out of here. Yeah. As long as, of course, I hope it's out by Friday night because I've got high school football to cover. But as long as it's out of here, by midday Saturday, we should be okay.
You don't want 12 inches in 24 hours, like.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, I'm with you. Listen, I hope we don't get that kind of. If we get that kind of torrential rain, it could be an issue. There's no doubt about it. From everything from people getting into town to the ability to have a good atmosphere to the ability to play the game. Yeah. So we'll monitor. That's why I'm going to have him on in the next segment, Pat.
All right. We're going to be listening to him. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Always good to hear from you. 10:13 here on the Gary Harris Show. And we are going to get Richard Scott on in the next segment to give us the latest on this potential hurricane that is going to impact the Gulf Coast sometime this week, and then therefore has the chance to impact our weather here clearly in Tuscaloosa if if it makes landfall. But that's why I can't wait to have him on. So stay tuned for that in the next segment. A couple of other notes here. Getting back to the Auburn situation. Boy, a lot came out of that game on Saturday, in addition to Auburn losing the football game to Arkansas. Started Hank Brown, replaced him at halftime with Peyton Thorne. After the game, Hugh Freeze commented that they got to find a quarterback that won't throw it to the other team. And then that night on social media, on X, Bo Wallace, who played quarterback for Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss and led them to wins over Alabama, a win over Alabama in 2014. And the next year it was Kelly Kidd that led Ole Miss to win, but was a really good quarterback for Ole Miss, and now as a high school football coach, went out on social media and really just cooked Hugh Freeze with some really strong text about how Hugh Freeze always blames the players, never takes any of the blame himself, throws quarterbacks under the bus, and just really had some strong comments. Auburn fans, rightfully so, are upset by what he had to say in large part, but that is out there now. It's making the rounds that Hugh Freeze doesn't take any blame for when the offense fails and takes all the credit when they have success. And I'm looking at all of his tweets right now. The last one that he had yesterday was simply asking why Hugh can't ever take responsibility, caused the whole Auburn fan base to riot. Can you say panic button? So he was going back and forth with the fan base. He just had strong comments, one right after the other. And so there's a lot going on right now with Auburn on and off the field. All right, it's 10:16. We're going to get to the break. And when we come back, Richard Scott, chief meteorologist from WVUA 23, has been monitoring this potential weather system. And he texted me that the path was scheduled to be released right around 10 a.m. So he's going to join us next to tell us what, at least as of Monday.
You'll be feeling these changes within just a couple of days.
Text support to 511-511.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Sky partly to mostly sunny today with a hot afternoon, the high 93. For tonight, the sky fair with the low at 72. For tomorrow, partially sunny. We'll mention a small chance of a shower by afternoon, the high tomorrow 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
A national championship team covering a national championship team. The best sports talk in the state. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
All right, 10:19. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show here on Tide 100.9 FM, 1230 AM WTBC. And we are joined now by WVUA 23 in Tuscaloosa Chief Meteorologist Richard Scott with the latest on this developing weather system in the Gulf, what it can mean for the Gulf of Mexico and the panhandle of Florida and Alabama, and also what it can mean for our weather later on this week and the potential impact that it could have on the Alabama-Georgia football game. Good morning, Richard. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Gary. Good morning to you.
Listen, you were telling me in a text that they were, getting ready to release the path. What is the latest that we have on this weather system this morning?
All right, so the National Hurricane Center, they went ahead and issued what we call a potential tropical cyclone. This is number 9, and that's basically a prerequisite before you get to a tropical storm or hurricane. And the track has this thing coming in sometime Thursday evening between Panama City and the Big Bend region of Florida. Maybe it's a major hurricane, so that's obviously a big deal for that area. But for Alabama, I guess the good news is we're on the west side of the storm, which is typically referred to as the good side.
Right.
But we're still going to get a lot of rain off of this, Gary. So even though we're on that west side of this tropical system, I think we're still going to get a lot of rain on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
All right, give me some idea, because a lot of things happening. I got my good friend Robbie Glenn. He's having a Striker Strong golf tournament Friday morning at Bentbrook. Obviously, we've got high school football Friday night. And then, of course, Saturday, prior to the game, Saturday night, you've got all your tailgating, game day, all that's going on here in town. So I know it's still just Monday, but it sounds like there's potential for all of those events to be impacted by heavy rain. Is that correct?
And I think some of that will be, Gary. The big impact is going to be Thursday and Friday for Alabama. So for events happening Friday during the daytime, I do think it's going to rain quite a bit. Friday night for high school football, I think it's going to be wet for that. In terms of severe weather, not expecting that for Alabama. Good. For those local games Friday night. While it will be likely wet for some of the stadiums, it's not going to be a deal where high schools have to cancel the game due to lighting issues. Hopefully that won't be the case. Of course, Gary, like I said, today's Monday. Things could change, and we always advise people to check back and make sure you have that updated information because this track could change now. And let me just warn you, if this track were to shift westward, then that could change for us. Now, I do think for, obviously, your listeners, Gary, you're trying to figure out what's going to be happening for the Bama-Georgia game. That's a big deal on Saturday, and, of course, that's a late game, which kind of helps us out a little bit more, too, to get this storm out of the way by Saturday. There may be some lingering showers, but in terms of heavy rain, Gary, I think all that's going to be out of here before the Bama-Georgia game.
So right now, looking good for Bama, Georgia, and that's great. That's great news. And as far
impact too,
go ahead. Sorry, Richard. No, go ahead.
Wind impact for Alabama is not going to be a big issue unless this track shifts westward. Sure, it's going to be breezy on Thursday and Friday, but the core of the hurricane wind is going to go up through Georgia. Unless this track shifts westward, again, that's why we advise people to keep checking back the latest information. Because this thing is just now starting to develop, so changes in that path could happen.
All right, back to the landfall point right around Panama City. And obviously we hope it weakens, but we've got, obviously friends down there, people on property down there, and we know that when you have, a place along the Gulf Coast, the Panhandle of Florida and Alabama, you have to deal with this. This is the hurricane month, but potentially you're saying this could be a pretty bad storm and could it do severe damage to that area if it continues?
It certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, it certainly could, Gary. That's something we're really concerned about is where this thing comes in. Now, once you go east of Apalachicola, you get into that Big Bend region of Florida. That's the least populated part of Florida. There's not as many vacation homes there. There's not as many condominiums there. If this were a major hurricane to come in, the less damage to people and their homes and structures would be in that Big Bend region of Florida. Obviously, we don't want to wish this hurricane on anybody.
Right.
If it shifts to the west, you're talking about millions of people that could be directly impacted close to Panama City and Destin, and even if you were to go further west towards Gulf Shores. But right now we're looking at between Apalachicola and the Big Bend. That's where we're thinking the core of this thing comes in. But, again, it's such a close call for Panama City, and that's a huge vacation area for a lot of people in this area, Gary. As you know, a lot of people travel down there for vacation season. So we're hoping this thing dodges those major areas.
Richard, do these storms, and hopefully it won't be upgraded to a hurricane, but do they usually stay on, for the most part, they usually stay on the predicted path? As you said, they don't always, but usually the technology is such that when they're tracking these things, for the most part, they usually pretty much stay on the path that they're predicted to stay on, don't they?
Yeah, confidence is pretty high on this one, which is usual compared to where we were 20 years ago, Gary. If you remember 20 years ago, we were tracking storms like Ivan and Katrina, paths would change quite a bit. Well, now, science has gotten so much better. These computer models have gotten so much better. We can really tell you within a couple hundred miles, 5 days out, where this thing's going to come in, which is remarkable. And there's high confidence it comes in that Apalachicola, the Big Bend region of Florida. If there were to be some sort of shift westward, obviously that would be concerning. But keep in mind the west side of the storm is typically the better side of it. Yes, you're going to have impacts, but you don't get the storm surge and you don't get the extreme winds like you do near that center and to the east of it. So places like Gulf Shores, Destin, and maybe Panama City, it's a close call for them. The surge would not be an issue. It would be east of there. But again, any kind of shift westward, that could change that dramatically for those cities.
At what point, Richard, will this storm be named? What has to happen for a storm to get to the point where it's named?
But once it gets a low-level center and it gets winds of around 40 miles per hour or stronger, that's when the National Hurricane Center will go ahead and give it a name. Next name on the list is Helene. I think that's the one that this storm will grab that name. There's another one out in the Central Atlantic. I think it's going to be slower to develop, so most likely this one will get the name Helene, and it should become a hurricane by Wednesday.
We're on the back end. We're still in September, but we're kind of on the back end of hurricane season, aren't we? If we get through this storm or another, shouldn't we, by October, usually winding them down a little bit?
Yeah, typically the wind shear starts to increase, the westerlies, the jet stream comes south, and typically you don't get big hurricanes late into October, and especially by the time you get in November, the sea surface temperatures begin to come down as you get cold fronts coming southward, and typically by the time you get towards late October, we're pretty much in the clear. Now, sometimes you can have a storm later than normal. We've had that in the years past, but your big hurricanes like Ivan and Katrina and Rita, those storms usually happen in September and early October.
Richard, man, we appreciate the update, and go ahead and fill our listeners in on where they can track your updates really throughout the day.
Yeah, so a good place, social media platforms, Richard Scott, WVUA23, Facebook and X, a good place to get information. Website, too, WVUA23.com, and we'll be on tonight at 5 o'clock live on the news. Of course, you can get our app, the WVUA23 app, and keep up to date on weather information. I'm actually posting an update as we speak on the app and on the website and social media. So I'll continue to get that updated for you and track this storm as it gets closer.
Thanks, Richard.
Hey, have a good day, Gary. Thank you.
All right, Richard Scott with the latest on this disturbance in the Gulf and potential hurricane. All right, it's 10:28 here on the Gary Harris Show. I want to remind you that, hopefully the weather won't get bad. As we mentioned, certainly got my friend Robbie Glenn's golf tournament, Striker Strong tournament Friday at Bitbrook. But we are in a time when some of the best golf weather of the year is from the latter part of September through, mid-December, really, to be honest with you. It's just usually it's great golf weather. And I would encourage you to check out Tall Pines in East Tuscaloosa for a great golfing experience. It's open to the public, and it's a super layout. They're closed on Mondays, but open Tuesday through Sunday. Call to make a tee time, 205-556-1232. That's 205.
In Birmingham, plus don't miss our grand opening celebration Friday, October the 11th through Sunday, October 13th. And check us out at academy.com with free shipping on purchases over $25.
You see him on WVUA 23 covering sports and on Tider Insider TV on Tuesday nights. Don't miss a minute of the Gary Harris Show. Weekdays from 9 to 11 on Tide 100.9.
All right, 10:32. Welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. It's time for Casey Smith on golf, and we're also going to talk to Casey, who lives in Atlanta, about the vibe over there for the Alabama-Georgia game, and also get his thoughts on the Falcons-Chiefs last night. He was in attendance for that big game over at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, won by the Chiefs as they held the Falcons off 22-17. But first, we'll talk golf. Good morning, Casey. How are you?
I am doing great, Gary. Thank you. Hope you're doing well.
Doing great. Had a heck of a golf tournament over the weekend, and Billy Horschel held off Rory McIlroy to win the BMW PGA on the DP World Tour. They went at it, and Horschel, is a really fine player. I wouldn't put him at the superstar level, but he can be a bulldog. And he made that long putt for Eagle to get the win. What did you think of his performance? And just another close call for Rory McIlroy.
Yeah, Billy Horschel, that's his second win over there in 3 years, and only the first American to win the BMW PGA 2 times. I think, a lot of class for him after the win. He and Rory apparently have gotten to be pretty close and do some practicing together, and then he makes that putt on him. I heard what he said after, he's a great champion, generational talent. I make the crazy long putt. There's some luck involved in that potentially. And Rory finishes bridesmaid again. But give him credit. He made the shot happen. when it needed to. And, I mean, down even the stretch, that was thrilling golf. It's a great golf course. And Billy Horschel's, he got left off that President's Cup team. He plays with a little chip on his shoulder. So he probably, that someone like that, like when we talked about it last week, he's the guy that really he'd walk to Montreal to play. And
I agree with you 100%.
Not wanting
100%.
To play, right? So he is definitely was probably playing with a little chip on his shoulder, and funny how it works out that way. He goes and wins, and now he's not playing the President's Cup, and he's a hot hand.
No, but you said it before he won. You last couple of weeks, and now we've got the President's Cup cranking up this week in Montreal, and you said it, disappointed in Jim Furyk. Just didn't seem to put very much thought into this, very much effort, and still, I mean, this thing's flying so under the radar. It's just, we're just going to take the 6 qualifiers and the next 6 in line. Just a really lazy way to put this team together. You mentioned Horschel. You mentioned we talked about Nick Dunlap and what he could have meant. And I know, listen, Justin Thomas hasn't played great, some of these guys. But this is also about building interest in this event. And I'm just bewildered that there hasn't been more effort put into trying to build this event up. And, in some ways, you'd almost like to see the international team win just to give this event some buzz, because right now, Casey, it doesn't have any.
Yeah, it's going to take that. It almost needs to happen. Or if the U.S. continues to win at the way that they're rescheduling, or the way that they're trying to look it down the road and all that, and what they're thinking about doing, and when you start hearing people on the inside talk about what can they do, well, you missed the boat on what you can do to build this event up. And now, really, the only way you can save it probably is the international team win. The U.S. continues to win as you continue to devalue the product by putting out lazy teams, then you're going to get a very disinterested fan base for the President's Cup this week, and there is zero buzz about it, and which is really sad, because at times it's been a really entertaining team competition over the years.
Yeah, and it should be. And like I said, it should be a much bigger event than it is, but I think more could have been done from the captain's chair and from the committee that works for the U.S. here to understand this isn't the Ryder Cup. It doesn't have that built-in fandom. We could have jazzed this team up. Again, the Nick Dunlap oversight is just inexcusable to me. And then, but anyway, they're going with it the way they're going with it. It sounds like you're like me. It would be a major upset for the international team to win, but do they have a shot?
Oh yeah, they have a shot, and I think the thing is, to your point, most of our points is the President's Cup is more talented players. You're playing more players than team. You also play more people, so it is about getting the best players, or about getting players that bring a buzz. The Ryder Cup is more about U.S. versus Europe. I feel like the President's Cup, yes, there is, because the international doesn't really have a country to represent. It becomes more about the players playing really good golf. So that's really my take. And then the live players not being there too doesn't really help the event and the buzz. But my thing on them winning, I think they definitely win. I mean, the power rankings came out. And when you look at the top of the roster for the President's Cup international team, I mean, Sungjae Im, Siwoo Kim, Hideki Matsuyama, Tom Kim, Adam Scott had a really good year this year. Mm-hmm. And, Min Woo Lee, Corey Connors playing in Canada. Taylor Pendon's playing in Canada. Mackenzie Hughes playing in Canada. I mean, you get to the end of their roster, Jason Day had a good year this year. Ben Ann had a good year this year. Christian Boothbout had a good year this year. All right, well, when you go to the U.S. side, they're really consistently good 1 through 12. We have some guys playing really good golf at the top, Scotty, Xander, Colin Morikawa, and then you got to manage and put these guys together. Patrick Cantlay's got a great record in the President's Ryder Cup, but he's not been playing great. Sam Burns is going to probably play with Scotty Stein. But now he's not been playing great. I think you'll probably get some life out of Sahith Theegala. He's going to want to be there, be fired up. Wyndham Clark, you don't know what you're going to get from tournament to tournament. He's in the power rankings number 8, but he's won a major last year. And but who knows? And then you got Brian Harmon, who doesn't really move the needle, is a great putter. I don't understand why he was the captain's pick, truthfully. Russell Henley, I like Brian Harmon. Same thing. Both guys are from Georgia. Russell Henley's never played in anything before. And then you get to Keegan Bradley, who's really was, the captain. He wins late and he gets the captain's pick. And then Max Holman's been playing horrible. He's the 12th guy. So you just don't know what you're going to get. Like I said all along, I think the international team is probably the best chance pre-President's Cup to win going in. I think they've got a really good chance to win, and that would flip the event because then there would be pride from the U.S. guys to play. And I've heard a lot of people say for years, this event really honestly needs them to win, and it would get some juice to it.
It would spark some interest, no doubt. Next week, and we'll get to this next week, but it'll just a little bit of a look ahead to the Sanderson Farm Championship because I give the city of Jackson and that area of Mississippi a lot of credit for hanging on to a PGA Tour event. Obviously, it's not a marquee event, but it's been an important event over the year. And it's now, being played at the Country Club of Jackson. For a lot of guys who are up-and-comers or an opportunity to grab a PGA Tour win, it's a big event for that area, too. And it's a tour event, for people that live in Tuscaloosa. If you want to go see PGA Tour golf, you got one, about, 2.5 hours away. This is a special event for that area. I know, having lived in Mississippi, covered that event, been at different courses, but talk about what that can mean for young players or players maybe who are on the other end of their career that are trying to hang on to have a chance to win a tour event this late in the season to kind of really jumpstart your career on one hand or kind of revive it on another.
Yeah, Trey Mullinak's looked no further. This is an event that he won a couple of years ago, and it gave him a job for a couple of years. He got hurt. It helped him during that injury time, to provide some safety net. And we'll have a good group of Alabama guys in the field. This is a very important event for all of them, especially where most of them sit. I even see Davis Riley's in the field, so it should be pretty much everybody that we follow except for JT. Everyone else you will see in this event. And it's good. So if you're an Alabama person, I would definitely get over this. It's a great place to watch an event. There will not be huge crowds. It's the last year of the Sanderson Farms as the title sponsor. And it goes to someone else from there. So I would say if you get a chance to get out there, and as far as the job goes, it gets you. You get a chance. It doesn't matter if you win this event, you get a job for 2 years on the PGA Tour, which is life-changing, and the exemptions that come with it. So it's as important for the players playing as any event that they play in, or they wouldn't be over there playing in it.
And next week we'll have a real breakdown, and like you said, heavy Alabama contingent that we'll be talking about. All right, let's get to football first. The Falcons last night, you were there. It's just that, if you're a Falcons fan, you're so used to seeing this script played over so many times. They could have beat the Chiefs, maybe should have beat the Chiefs, but they didn't beat the Chiefs. Last two drives inside the, red zone, 10-yard line, in fact, I think, and on the first drive and came up short on 4th and goal. And then the second time on a 4th and 1, they run a sweep to Bijan Robinson. And why you try to run wide there, I just don't get it. But that's Falcon football. Everybody gets fired up after the great comeback they had against the Eagles, and then they have a chance to really make a statement last night, and as usual, they fall flat.
It is, par for the course, staying on the golf talk. It's as I'm getting on the elevator to leave to go to the game, there's a bunch of Chiefs fans in the elevator. They said, "Oh man, I feel bad for you. What y'all suffered." I said, "Fortunately, I'm an Alabama fan. Alabama over the Falcons in terms of fandom, but I have been a lifelong Falcons fan and attend a lot." And I said, it's just par for the course. It's rinse and repeat for Alabama, which I'm grateful for. It's rinse and repeat for the Falcons. I didn't realize that was going to be the case at the end. I thought the Falcons are continuing to get better. Having two O-linemen get knocked out was a big blow. I just think that the play calling was atrocious. Why do you go split backs? Why are you going to have Algier lead? They got the box stack. Be creative. They get the ball to Kyle Pitts barely still, even with new coaching. Every time Kyle Pitts on that same field, the 2020 Alabama team was as good as any team in my lifetime. And the team, one of the toughest games they played all year was Florida on that field, and Kyle Pitts showed out. And that's why one of the reasons why they drafted him early. And then they don't give him the ball hardly any. He should be, if you watch Travis Kelce play on the other side, he's moving all over the field, lining up differently. He doesn't come out, but, 2 or 3% of the snaps. Kyle Pitts is out half the snaps. And then they're trying to, it just doesn't make sense to me, some of the play calling. It was a cool night. They put Arthur Blank in the Ring of Honor last night. He's done a lot for the city. They gave out his favorite things, hot dogs and Coke and chips. They gave them out all night free to fans. But they do some, just like they finish games. Sometimes there's a lot of dumb stuff that happens over here. They open the roof. I've been to like 6 or 7 roof open games now. And it's miserable. When it's hot, it is so hot because they open, all the heat comes out. You can't even see the skyline. It doesn't make any sense. So it went from being 68 in there. It's a cooler field or cooler stadium to watch a game in when the roof's closed. When the roof's open, if it's hot outside, it just gets so humid because there's not any air coming in. And so it was brutally hot. I think they were just trying to show off for Mr. Blank's night. But yeah, another struggle, another suffer for the Falcons. All the fans, the place is electric, but I would suggest to them they should come to Tuscaloosa and watch how Alabama runs an in-game entertainment and use that to an advantage. I mean, they have rappers singing on the field pregame, and then they play Sweet Caroline during the game. Like, it's just some of the stuff they do just doesn't make sense. But it was good to see Pat Mahomes, and he and Andy Reid, they never get nervous. The fans never get nervous. A lot like watching the game with Alabama people. Know we're going to have a chance to win at the end. We're in the game. A lot of confidence. Hey, if it carries over, they get it done. Winners win, losers lose.
That's right, they do. All right, speaking of football, what's the vibe over there in the ATL from the Georgia perspective for this big game coming up Saturday night in Tuscaloosa?
Well, the vibe was really high on the Georgia contingent that they were the team to beat until they went up and didn't play as well against Kentucky, and Alabama's continuing to get better. I think they would be more nervous if the game was at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They are scared to death to play Alabama there. I think they think they've got a really good chance. They don't really know what we have. I don't think they think. They're still trying to figure out what they have after that game. They're always a very confident bunch. They do recognize that we beat them the last time we played them. They think they're going to win, and they think they're the team to beat. But they're definitely, they know Alabama's legit now, and there is definitely a lot more respect now for Kalen DeBoer than there was, and they see that there's a lot of playmakers over there, and Alabama's playing loose. So Jalen Milroe is someone that beat them, put the team on his shoulders a little bit in the Benz in the SEC championship game. So they have a lot of respect for him. I think ultimately they all are confident. I always said it's a really confident bunch. The adults that bark at you, you got to be confident to be an adult that barks. So, I think they think they're going to win. I think we're going to win. I like Bama by 3 and a tight one to the end.
I hear you, brother. All right. Well, appreciate you, Casey. We'll talk again next week.
Thanks, Gary. Have a great week.
All right, 10:47 here on the Gary Harris Show. We'll take a time out. We're open for phone calls in this final segment. 205-342-9904 is the number on the Pinnacle Park at North River Hotline. Give us a call, and we'll get the call on. If not, we're going to hear a little bit from Ryan Williams this past Friday for his media availability. That's coming up next on the Gary Harris Show.
On the next Inside the Locker Room with Coach Wimp Sanderson and Barry Sanderson.
Tune in Tuesday, 7:30, brought to you by Yellowwood. We'll have Kevin Skarbinski on. We'll talk all things SEC with Kevin. In the second hour, the controversial Tim Brando will join us. We'll talk to Tim about his top 15. Actually, he has Alabama at number 7, but we'll find out what Tim Brando thinks about the University of Alabama. Plus, we'll take your phone.
On your day. Start your day with Nature Made, the #1 pharmacist-recommended vitamin and supplement brand. based on a survey of pharmacists who recommend branded vitamins and supplements.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
The sky partly to mostly sunny today with a hot afternoon, the high 93. For tonight, the sky fair with the low at 72. For tomorrow, partially sunny. We'll mention a small chance of a shower by afternoon, the high tomorrow 91. I'm James Spann on the ABC 3340 Weather Center on Tide 100.9.
Roll Tide, the best sports talk, period. Your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
.51, welcome back into the Gary Harris Show. Lunch is right around the corner, and there is a lot of good places to have lunch in Tuscaloosa. One of them is Who's Q and Brew off Highway 82 in the Northridge Center in Tuscaloosa. Lunch specials daily, dinner specials too for that matter, drink specials as well. Great barbecue. Terrific environment. Check out Who's Q and Brew for lunch. All right, right now we're going to check out Ryan Williams for just a few minutes. He had a media availability on Friday, the outstanding freshman wide receiver for Alabama, superstar already, and we're going to play a few minutes of what he had to say from Friday morning. This is Alabama freshman wide receiver Ryan Williams.
Us roughly being the same size when we came in, just trying to figure out how he stayed healthy then to basically the whole time and was able to play all those games. I mean, it was only right, and he was a Heisman Trophy winner, so that's definitely something that I'm striving for.
So you started that plan?
Yes.
What does that look like?
Strengthening my ankles, just the joints that you'll most likely injure as a little person, like rolling your ankle, stuff like that. So yeah, just strengthening those places.
Do you have a welcome to Alabama moment, in terms of the grandeur of it all?
Yeah, this summer, or was it fall camp? It was one. As soon as we started wearing equipment, Justin Jefferson, I had a shallow coming across, and I tried to juke, and he just. I felt it all in. He hit me so hard, I felt it in my ribs. It just vibrated my entire body. But that was about it.
Did it take long for you to get comfortable, with the speed of the game? Because it seems from the outside looking in, it's kind of mid-seasons for you.
Just with the help of my teammates and just the staff feeling so confident in me, giving me the push behind that I need. They've helped out a lot to speeding up that process.
What's it been like with all this extra attention? I'm sure every time you go somewhere, there's probably somebody recognizing you. Just how have you been able to deal with that?
I just try to still treat it like it's normal, because a lot of my friends, we still go everywhere we still want to. And, I take a couple extra pictures compared to everybody else, but we still just have a good time, and I really don't even worry about it.
Have you had anyone in your corner that kind of maybe talk with you about that to keep you grounded, or has that been something that you've kind of made sure that you have somebody to keep you in check?
Definitely. I mean, everybody, does a good job. The entire staff, my family, my friends, everybody just keep me, level-headed, and I check myself at times, so it's typically pretty easy for me.
Can you talk us through the route on the drive to the end of the half? You kind of look like you got a hit, but you leaked out. Was that originally leaked out on the sidelines? Was that originally? Was that improv?
No, that was in the game plan. We knew that the corner was a vision corner. He liked to keep everything in front of him, and he likes to play in between both. So I set it down. And then as soon as he went on the seam, I just leaked out down the sideline, and J. Mill put it perfect.
Your decision behind the New Way podcast, you were back.
It was a collective. I mean, it was a lot of people that, because as recruits, we knew we wanted to do something like a podcast because we always feed off of each other. And it was actually like Coach Saban, he gave us a little, it was like, yeah, that's a good idea because he told us it was going to be a center, and that was last year during our recruiting process. And, we were going to do it in a dorm, and everybody just kept supporting us, and Alabama has done a great job of allowing us to express ourselves and, just share it on the platform.
Speaking of expressing yourself, can you tell us about nails?
Yeah, my little sister, she just loved doing nails, and I support her fully. And, I wore these with my green suit, so we'll change it up pretty much every week.
Right, you're talking about the podcast and obviously making that bond with your teammates. How is it just traveling to Wisconsin, having that team bonding over in Madison?
It's crazy. Just, everybody I think we all had the same mindset, same goal, or we wouldn't be here. So it's pretty easy for us to, bond and just click on the same level because we all have pretty much the same mindset. So and especially when we get the guys on the podcast, just to express themselves, show everybody that we're not just football players. So that's just a plus for us.
Back to your
All right, good stuff there from Ryan Williams on Friday. Initially, when you heard his comments, he was opening up talking about Devontae Smith and the comparisons and how he admires Devontae Smith, his ability to, with a slight frame, they're built very similarly, to stay healthy. Of course, yesterday Devontae took that shot from a Saints defensive lineman that gave him a concussion. And also this note, Harold Perkins, outstanding linebacker for LSU, reportedly will miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL. That's a bad break for the Tigers, as he is one of their better defensive players on their football team. All right, that's going to wrap it up for the show today. Georgia Week is here. We're going to be previewing it all week long and building up until the game this weekend. All right, we've got T-Town Sports Daily coming up next. For Chase Brumfeld, I'm Gary Harris. Thanks for listening to the Gary Harris Show, and I'll be back tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for the Tuesday edition. Have a great day, everybody.